This PowerPoint reviews circadian rhythm sleep disorders. We're going to hopefully identify the characteristics of circadian sleep disorders, differentiate between the different circadian sleep disorders, and detail how circadian rhythm disorders are evaluated, diagnosed, and treated. Let's go to our next slide. Okay, the circadian cycle. Let's take a look at our picture here. If you'll first identify the red line, you will see this is cortisol production. Notice to the left of your screen is 6 a.m. in the morning. See how it spikes? It's at its highest level right around 9 or 10 in the morning. And then it starts to abruptly starts to decrease. Notice then the lowest point is actually at about 12 a.m. It's the lowest point of your cortisol production. Now let's take a look at our melatonin production, and this is the blue line. Notice at the blue line it's fairly stable throughout the day, and then it drops during the night and begins to rise again in the morning. Let's go on to our next slide after you've got a handle on this picture here. Circadian rhythms. Our daily rhythm is slightly longer than 24 hours. It continuously adjusts in response to Zeitgebers. Light is the most effective Zeitgeber. Physical activity, scheduled meal times can also be used as Zeitgebers. Exogenous melatonin is not well established as a Zeitgeber yet, but they do believe that it does play a role. Entrainment is a process of resetting circadian time. This is a gradual process. This is typical cause of circadian rhythm sleep disorders. Entrainment is the typical cause. Phase shifting is changing the circadian timing with a Zeitgeber. Using a Zeitgeber to phase shift is a gradual process. Quick fix is not possible in treating circadian rhythm disorders. You can't give someone a pill to make them go to sleep so they get up at the right time, or give someone a pill so they get up at the right time so they can go to bed at the right time. This has to be a gradual process, otherwise it fails. So remember, entrainment is a process of resetting the circadian time, and it's usually the cause of circadian rhythm disorders. And then phase shifting is changing the circadian timing using a Zeitgeber, and this can either cause sleeping disorders or it can be used to treat circadian rhythm sleep disorders. Let's go to our next slide. Shift work disorder. Let's look at the symptoms of this first. We have a reduced sleep quantity. Daytime sleep following a night shift is typically less than nighttime sleep following a day shift. So people who work night shift typically get a less amount of sleep during the day. They just spend less time in bed trying to sleep, period. They have a reduced sleep quality as well. So not only are they not getting enough, but when they do get sleep, it's not that good quality sleep either. Subjective sleep and non-restorative and impaired. So longer sleep latencies. They have sleep maintenance issues, meaning it's difficult for them to stay asleep. They wake up frequently, or they have frequent arousals. And then they have an early termination of their sleep period. So they go to sleep, they have a few awakenings during their sleep, and then they will finally have an arousal, and they just kind of feel like, well, I'm wide awake, let's get up, rather than still trying to stay there and get a little bit more time in bed. So not only do they have a quantity problem, they also have a quality problem. Sleepiness during wakefulness. This is due to the decreased sleep quality and quantity. They have acute reduction in alertness, especially towards the end of their shift. This typically occurs regardless of the amount or presence of sleep loss. This is a circadian phenomenon. Increased gastrointestinal problems, cardiovascular disease, such as smoking, hyperlipidemia, and hypertension. They may have menstrual irregularities, and increased time to conception are more prevalent, so it takes them longer to get pregnant. Breast cancer is more prevalent, and then the family marital relationship problems are more prevalent as well. So with people who work shift work, or people who are supposed to be awake at night working instead of sleeping, their bodies just do not get the quality of sleep that they should, and there's many factors that can play into that, such as light, noise, etc. And they just don't sleep as long. They just don't feel the need to sleep as long, and part of that is because they're not getting the good quality. Then those two factors cause them to be sleepy when they're awake. It also causes them to not be as alert when they're awake. And then all of that being off their normal circadian cycle causes the following problems: the gastrointestinal problems, menstrual irregularities, difficulty to conceive, and so on. Let's go to. So who does shift work disorder affect? This primarily is affecting night shift or third shift, um, or early morning shifts, or those on a rotating shift. Those who work at night shift for 2 weeks and then they go back and work day shift for 2 weeks. That is especially hard on people. The symptoms will resolve and return to a normal when they start nighttime sleep again. So they may only have their symptoms when they're working the night shift, and then when they go back to a day shift schedule, they notice those symptoms resolve themselves. So how is a person supposed to tolerate shift work? Well, first you need to adapt your sleep and life schedule to your shift work, and this may not be possible, but that's ideally what you'd like to do. The most effective way to tolerate shift work is by a person's commitment to work schedule. Those who use light and dark schedule to assist in phase shifting are more likely to adapt than those who do not. So when you get off work in the morning, if you wear your sunglasses home and then go straight to bed, it's going to be easier for you to adapt. Older individuals typically have more difficult time adjusting than do younger individuals. Those with short sleep requirements typically adjust easier than those requiring long sleep periods. Um, this is in reference to, some people need 8 hours of solid sleep to feel good, and other people need 4 hours of sleep to feel good. What this is saying is that people who only need those 4 hours of sleep, they are more apt to adjust to shift work better than that person who needs their 8 hours. And they don't know why, but they do. Those who are people who are called night people, we call them owls, they typically adjust easier than those people who consider themselves morning people, who we call larks. Fatigue management policies. These are a proactive way for employers to address and minimize the increased risks associated with shift work. They know there's risks associated with shift work, so if employers can address that and try to minimize that, that's called fatigue management policies. Let's go on to our next. Jet lag disorder. This is misalignment of the endogenous circadian system with the environmental time cues of the new time zone. This results in difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep after traveling into a different time zone. This is more common with flight or flying than it is with just driving to a different time zone. Symptoms include difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep, excessive sleepiness, decreased alertness, and gastrointestinal problems. So you see this is much similar to shift work disorder symptoms. The symptom severity, as far as severity goes, if you're traveling east, this is called advancing, is typically more difficult than traveling west. Your duration of symptoms corresponds to the number of time zones crossed. The more time zones you cross, the more severe your symptoms are going to be because your body hasn't adjusted to that different schedule yet. The occurrence of symptoms, transient. They may be transient and diminish as the circadian rhythm adapts to the local time cues of the new time zones. Phase delays occur more rapidly than phase advances, and these can become chronic for those who frequently fly across time zones. So let's go to our next. Free running type. Okay, if you remember, our circadian rhythm is actually slightly longer than 24 hours per day. But daily time cues reset the rhythm to maintain a 24-hour day. So without those time cues to reset our day, we probably would, our day would actually be a little bit longer than 24 hours. So when a person's circadian clock is not reset by environmental time cues, they can develop what's called free running, and this is a type of circadian rhythm disorder. What this causes, or the result of this, is a progressive phase delays. So on night 1 they go to bed at 9. On night 2 they go to bed at 9:30. On night 3 they go to bed at 9:50, and so on and so on. It's a phase delay, so each night they go to bed a little bit later because the time cue hasn't reset their clock so that they go to bed at the same time. Symptoms are periodically and recurring insomnia and sleepiness. So they're hypersomnic or they're really sleepy, and then at the same time they have difficulty falling asleep. This can occur in anyone. However, it's more common in those with some degree of blindness. Those with complete loss of visual transmission are most susceptible to this disorder. This is because light is the strongest time cue. Light does not need to be seen to be a time cue. Contact of daylight to skin is enough for it to be. However, it's for this reason that daylight can just hit the skin and that be enough. That's why people with visual transmission or loss of visual transmission, some of them do not experience a sleep disorder, is because if they've had daylight contact to their skin, then that was enough of a time cue for that person that they do not develop free running type sleep disorder. However, for some people who are blind or have difficulty with visual impairment, they may be more susceptible to this type of sleep disorder. It's kind of confusing, but let's go on to our next slide. Irregular sleep-wake rhythm. When a person's sleep occurs in multiple periods throughout the day, and the sum of these are equal to what should be obtained in a single sleep episode for a 24-hour period. So, an example, instead of sleeping for 8 hours at night, the person sleeps 5 to 6 times per day, and the total amount of time they slept in a 24-hour period equals 8 hours. Okay, this is common to institutionalized patients, especially those with brain damage, degenerative brain disease. Rare cases when a person ignores social environmental givers. So, let's go on to our next. Delayed and advanced sleep disorders. This took forever for me to figure out, but I finally understood it, and I found this picture and I thought it was helpful. At least to me it made sense. So, the normal person, and notice normal is the person on the top bed. He fits the bed perfect. The head of his bed is at the normal wake time, right at 7 a.m. And we're going to compare that to the other pictures. So if you compare it to the timeline at the bottom of the page, you see his head is right at 7 a.m. and his foot of his bed, or the foot of his bed, is at the normal go to sleep time, which in this picture is going to be about 11 p.m. If they are phase delayed, then the head of the bed is going to be at a later wake time. Notice on the patient who has phase delayed, notice his head is later than 7 a.m., so his normal waking time may be like 9 a.m. So it doesn't register on our timeline. And then the foot of his bed, or his go to sleep time, is much later as well. It's like 2 to 6 a.m. is when he is going to bed. So that is a phase delay. They go to bed later, they wake up later. Okay, a phase advance, then, notice the head of the bed is at a much earlier wake time. They're waking up about 2 to 5 in the morning. And then the foot of his bed is much earlier go to sleep time. In this guy, it looks like it's about 6 p.m. is when he's going to sleep. So a phase advance, they get up earlier and they go to bed earlier. Let's go on to our next. Delayed sleep phase disorder. These are owls. Sleep is initiated between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. when the sleep period is significantly later than what is considered normal. Sleep problems arise when owls try to adhere to a more conventional or earlier sleep-wake schedule. This is most common in adolescence and young adulthood. Symptoms include insomnia. They have difficulty falling asleep when they would like. The body tends to fall asleep at a later than desired time, even though they went to bed at an earlier time. For example, a good example is your adolescent who you make them go to bed at 9 o'clock, but their body does not let them fall asleep till 11:30 at night. That's just the way their body's set during that time in their life. They also have difficulty awakening in the morning when they would like. This refers back to their body not falling asleep until the later than desired time. If they actually fell asleep at 11:30 at night rather than 9 o'clock at night, then they didn't get enough time in bed for them to get up at 6 in the morning. So the overall effect is adequate time spent in bed, but inadequate total sleep time. Excessive daytime sleepiness is another symptom. The sleep deprivation due to loss of actual sleep time. Also, misalignment of alertness and sleepiness. The body still wants to sleep later in the morning and stay awake later at night, so they just can't get shifted back to when they need to be. Let's go to our next. Advanced sleep phase disorder. These are our larks, and they wake up about 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. When the sleep period ends earlier than is what is considered normal is kind of the definition of your advanced sleep phase disorder. Sleep problems arise when they try to adhere to a later schedule than what is normal to their body. We see this most commonly in older individuals. Our symptoms, they primarily have more social and family conflicts. They have decreased alertness towards the end of the day, excessive daytime sleepiness, the result of sleep deprivation from trying to stay up later than their body would like. So advanced sleep phase disorder, typically more social and family conflicts, whereas delayed sleep phase disorder, that causes more of the work and school conflicts. Let's go on to our next. Diagnosis. We really need a thorough history. We need to look at intrinsic factors, i.e. Visual impairment that occurs with the free running type, extrinsic factors, for example, recurrent traveling by flight that occurs in jet lag disorder. We want to look at medical or psychological problems that present with fatigue and insomnia. They may seem to be circadian rhythm disorder when they are not. So we want to look for brain damage, narcolepsy, idiopathic hypersomnia, insufficient sleep syndrome, and insomnia. To do this, we want to look at a sleep-wake diary. So along with a good patient history, a sleep-wake diary can lead to a quick diagnosis without the need of a polysomnogram. We want them to keep a diary for at least a 2-week period, and this is going to record when and how long a person sleeps, when and how much caffeine they ingest, alcohol, tobacco use, or other substances. This is going to include the patient's subjective feelings at bedtime and at awakening, as well as their perceived sleep quality. So for each night, they also rate how well they think they slept. Another way to look at their sleep-wake schedule for a period of time is called wrist actigraphy. This is unobtrusive and inexpensive, but it's another way to evaluate when they're sleeping or when they're active. It's not really when they're sleeping, but when they're inactive versus when they're active. Wrist actigraphy collects objective data on a person's daily activity. It cannot determine the difference between inactivity and sleep, but you can see how much consolidation of inactivity compared to how much activity time is occurring. When you do that, you can kind of assume that a person was asleep somewhere in this time period compared to when they were awake. And this is kind of nice. They just wear a little band on the wrist like a watch, so it's much easier than a polysomnogram, especially when you're looking at several days in a row. It's very unreasonable to do continual polysomnograms, whereas just wearing a watch around that's recording your activity is much more desirable. Polysomnogram and MSLT, again, these are not very valuable since it only gives data for one specific point in time, and to do them repeatedly is excessively costing. It costs a lot of money, and it's not very valid. So, circadian rhythm sleep disorder diagnosis needs to be made from a trending of the patient's sleep-wake pattern. So again, polysomnogram, not a great idea. Wrist actigraphy, gives you a really good idea of being able to compare when a person is active compared to when they're inactive, which can kind of give you an idea of their sleep-wake schedule. However, it's not very specific. But a sleep-wake diary is easy, it's inexpensive, and it includes a lot of data, so it can be very, very helpful. Let's go on to our next slide. Other options in diagnosis, they can look at core body temperature and melatonin. We really don't do these in the sleep laboratory, but some research has been done on this, and it can be used to estimate circadian phase. The correct interpretation is going to be based off of accurate and valid sampling in a strictly controlled environment for 24 hours. Also knowing how to demask circadian rhythm data through statistical analysis. Let's go to our next slide. Treatment. Hypnotics and stimulants. These only treat symptoms and do not correct or fix the underlying problem. Lifestyle adaptations using napping, bright lights, caffeine can be helpful to adapt to changes in schedules. Chronotherapy. This is typically used to treat delayed sleep phase disorder by staying up a little later each bedtime for several wake-sleep cycles until the desired bedtime is reached. Then, once they're at that desired bedtime, they just try to stick to a very rigid schedule. The most important thing with this is once they reach that desired bedtime, they go to bed at that time, and they get up at a set time every day. They can't allow themselves to sleep in past that time, or it disrupts the whole program and it doesn't work. So they stay up a little bit later each night. Usually this takes several nights until they get back to the time that they want to go to bed, and then they need to be very rigid as to what time they wake up in the morning. Utilizing the phase response curve. For melatonin, dosing is limited to the evening to promote a phase advance. It can be useful in the free running type and delayed sleep phase disorder. It is available over the counter in many different doses. One of the problems is they don't know the long-term safety of this. Light therapy, this is prescribed when the patient should either avoid or seek light. For example, with delayed sleep phase sleep disorder, they want them to seek light immediately when they wake up. This helps them reset their clock to an earlier time because remember, light is a very strong influence on our circadian rhythms. Then with SWD, low transmission sunglasses during morning commute and blackout shades in their bedroom can help promote phase delays. So with shift work disorder, if they keep their environment dark right before they go to bed and then keep their sleeping environment very, very dark, this helps them to sleep a little bit longer, get a little bit better quality of sleep, to help keep them the way they would like to be. Let's go to our next slide.